Guys, I have something exciting to share with you guys. Today's video is brought to you by me and the Down to Earth store. So head over to store.the.decoding.com, check out the cool products. Not only are there new designs, but also new products like caps, beanies, jackets, which is something you guys have been asking for. You'll find the link in the video description. But for now, let's get back to the video. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Today I'm gonna give you the solution to the treasure hunt I posted about a week and a half ago now. Obviously, if you haven't solved it, there will be spoilers. I will be solving all the steps one at a time, so if you're stuck on a specific step, you can watch the video until you reach that point, pause it, and then continue from there. But I'm gonna go through the steps, and I'm also gonna tell you why I designed them in the way that I did. The first clue you got from Hello Dave on the 9th of November. About 2 minutes in to the video, we get this little, I'm gonna mute the audio to make it less confusing, but we get this little glitch that happens and a star is shown. Many of you identify this correctly as being an M-class star. It makes a shot to 2 planets, which you also had identified correctly as 2 ice worlds, with an L-type star close by, and the glitch ends. So this, at this point, it was not really intended to be solvable. This was the first part of the hints that you could use later on, and it was mainly intended to begin to draw a little bit of attention to the event, to the treasure hunt, to begin to hopefully get some people talking, and kind of get the thing rolling, and especially so that people knew when they come back next week where we're going to do the actual start of the treasure hunt, people then knew, okay, there is some stuff, we need to go back to old videos and find some things there and stuff like that. The following week, I had another glitch, and this is where the event actually starts. And I think we're about the 7 minutes mark just before. We can see we get another glitch, and a high metal content world is shown. This was also pretty easily identified by people, and we see that same M-class star in the background. And then comes the massive, or the biggest clue, is this ringed station. Not ring station, sorry, these colonial stations with these armed. This is a very rare type of system, and we get the link down here for the treasurehunt.d3a.com. Gonna come back to that. But the idea, of course, to get the thing started is you need to locate the system. And I had a lot of thoughts about how I wanted people to progress through the puzzle. If you jump over here to treasurehunt.d3a.com, we do see that there's this like Google form that you can, that was like telling you fill in the passwords and you progress, you get new hints as you progress. I did not include the welcome video at this point. And I did not do that specifically because part of that welcome video is the information that there is a prize for the first winner. And at this point in the treasure hunt, I was hoping for people to be working together to solve it rather than splitting out individually. There will be plenty of time to split people up later. But at this point, I wanted to keep people grouped together to try and work to this as a community. I saw it during the Adamastor event where people from my own Discord community, they combed through 400 systems and divided it up between them and was looking for stuff. So I figured if people are going to do something similar, they can use the clues from the videos we just saw. I mean, there are many ways you can solve those clues to get the correct station name. One, you can begin to say, go and find all inhabited systems with an M-class star and find all inhabited systems with an L-type star and cross-reference those 2 lists. And if you then also maybe even say inhabited systems with a Coriolis station and cross-reference those lists, you can narrow down the possible systems you have to search for quite a lot. This is not something you can do with any existing tool, so this would require some either some like spreadsheet finesse or something like that. Alternatively, because these armed stations are so rare, you can simply just begin to Google it, and if you dig through old posts, you will actually be able to find a screenshot of this station with the system name and station name as well. So it is definitely solvable on your own. You don't have to be part of a community. And of course, you can also dig through all these systems yourself if you want to. But as many of you quickly figured out, the name of the station is Rosworth Port. So we can go ahead and type that in. Now we get the intro. There is no real hints in this intro video. It just explains the event and explains that there are some prizes and that kind of stuff. So there's no hints in this specific video here. The hints are down here. I think a lot of people miss the first line where it says jumps. They just look and say, oh, there are coordinates. And a lot of people would then begin to look into them, say, can we find systems of those coordinates? And you can't. The idea, of course, is that these are jumps that you will have to take from the system we just located with the Rosworth port in. So basically what you would do is you would take the coordinates of the Tawny system, is where rough report is. We can now get the coordinates for the Tawny system here, and by then simply just adding these jumps to it. So we're starting here with the x being minus 67.8, so we add 19 to it, and then we do that for all the different coordinates. Then we get to a new system, and we do that again from that system, from the new system where we just jumped. We're going to make this jump with along this vector here to the next system, to the next system, next system. Alternatively, you just take all the x and add together all the y I will set, add them all together here, just add them to the coordinates here to make one big jump vector. That's up to you. But the idea here is that these are individual jumps. It's a relatively simple thing, and a lot of you figured it out relatively quickly. I think there was a lot of people who like tunnel visioned on this being coordinates and not being vectors, which they are. And at first I actually had this called jump vectors, but I figured if I did that it would be too easy. So that's why I ended up just calling it jumps. But if you make these jumps from the Tawny system, you do end up in a system called ROS 905. Okay, so at this point I'm beginning to expect that some people will be branching off and be doing their own thing, trying to solve it on their own, because they just got the information that there is a prize for the first to finish. But of course, the puzzles do get more and more difficult as we progress. This one was a bit of a gamble on my side, and some people will solve this very quickly, and for some people this will be really difficult. There's these weird symbols that to most people won't mean a lot. Some people will know this as being a Pigpen cipher. And for the people who of course know this cipher, this would be really easy, because when you see these icons, you know them instantly. But of course I needed to give people some hints for the people who didn't know the cipher. So that's why I have this little video here. Now if we play that, we see a star, actually it's 2 stars, and there's a ship flying by, and it turns and it flies towards the star. And you might sit and you might think, are there like hidden stuff somewhere or what's going on? But it's actually way more simple than that. If we move along here and we pause the video, let's make this full screen, you will notice here, as the ship is flying by, that it's named Pigpen. So all you really had to do was to go and Google Pigpen, and you're gonna see there is the cipher. So quite simple, you can see if we go back here, we have like a corner here with a dot. So corner there with a dot, this is an R. And then we have, there it is, we have like a C with a dot. C with a dot is an O, and you just continue like that, going through them one at a time. We have like a U shape here with no dots, U shape with no dot, that's a B. And you keep going through that, and eventually you will decipher this to be called Robert Kelly. Now, if we look at that ROS system we were just in for, a second ago, you will notice that there is in fact a planet in system that's called Robert Kelly. See, the interesting thing here is for the people who just solve this by not actually going to the systems and following the steps in game, they wouldn't notice this relation. But most people who jump into system will have noticed that this planet was not just named ROS 905-1, ROS 905-2, that it actually had a specific name. So for those people who actually went in and followed the steps in game as intended, they would then get that little, they would instantly know that Robert Kelly was a planet in the system, and probably referring to that you have to go to that planet eventually. I chose this planet specifically because I wanted to throw people a little curveball. So far, everybody has hopefully been like dived into puzzles and codes and trying to decipher this, and maybe not paying that much attention to like, they're just looking at the data in game, maybe not actually paying that much attention to the game. So if you notice here, the gravity on this planet is rather high. I chose this specifically because I want to throw people that little curveball that if they don't pay attention, they're going to crash and burn into the planet. And I kept an eye on the people who were trying to solve it, and I know at least a few people managed to make a new crater in that planet, that's for sure, as they were crashing into it, coming in at a few thousand meters a second. But we're going to type in Robert Kelly and progress on to the next puzzle. Now, this is by far the most difficult one. I'm just going to play you a small section of it. This one consists of a lot of beeps of varying frequency. There are some lows, some mids, and then from time to time you hear these very high beeps. a lot of people talked about whether this was Morse code, was it some kind of binary, but the numbers just doesn't add up. If you try to do it as Morse, it doesn't give anything. If you try to do this as binaries, the numbers just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up to 8 in any specific manner. But what you might realize if you take these, and there are many ways you can do this, right? What some people did was they just grabbed the audio from the video here and then put it into to Audacity, which is definitely a way to go. Alternatively, if you're not that savvy with that, you can slow this down to like a quarter speed. And that makes it slow enough that you can sit and you can write along as it's playing. It might take a while, but you can write along as it's playing. We're going to come back to this text here in a second. But for now, let's just get all these things written down. So as you write this down, like I have here, what you have to realize is that each section separated by these high tones, I try to make these high tones distinct by making them not only a lot higher than anything else, but the tones are also slightly longer in duration than the other ones to make them stand out, to show you that these are special. If you actually measure the duration of each beep, you'll see that these high tones were longer. This was an indication that these were special, these were something else. If we use these to separate these into groups, you will see that you get 21 groups with 21 numbers in each. You can do ones and zeros, you can do A's and B's, you can do, what do I know, X and Y's, or circles and squares. It doesn't matter. You can use any signs you want, but all they have to do is just to make sure that you take these beeps and sounds and you divide them into groups of 21. So you have 21 groups of 21 characters. Now, if you're sitting with this, for instance, and I go ahead and I highlight a single one, so we highlight all the ones here, a pattern begins to emerge that might look familiar to some of you. You can see here we kind of have like a circle here with like a thing in the middle, and there's a circle here with a thing in the middle. There's also one here in this corner, and there's a lot of gibberish in between. Okay, so I just moved all of these over into a spreadsheet, so we can do some formatting. And the idea, of course, here is that you need to sit and color in all the ones. You can do this manually yourself, or you can do this. I mean, I could just sit here and I could say, I want this one, all the ones to be black, so I can make that one black. I can make that one black. It will take a while. So what you can also do is most spreadsheets on the format has something called conditional formatting, where I can make a condition that say if cell value is equal to 1, then go with a style where the background is black, for instance. Let's do that like so. Apply that. And now it may begin to look familiar to you. Maybe if I zoom out a little bit, you'll begin to see what this is. This is a QR code. So if you line these up in the right manner and color them in, then you get a QR code. If you scan this QR code, this gives you a set of coordinates. And if you've been following along, again, we got a system name, we got a planet, and now you got a set of coordinates. We'll now have to head down to that set of coordinates on the planet, which we'll find is very, very close to a nearby station. It's actually located right at one of the defense turrets outside the station perimeter. Now, on the side of this turret here, I took a screenshot of it. You can see these letters here, which does look vaguely familiar to what we have here. In fact, if we take this screenshot here and we remove the letters that are already shown, so we have the NE, we remove the 32, we get the XT before it says spec, and down here we remove the M64 and we get level, so we get next level. So if we go ahead and type in next level, we can then post that, and we made it to the end. Here I have all the beep noises opened up in Audacity. And if you put this into spectrogram mode, it becomes very, very apparent what is going on here. You can see the beeps here as they go up and down in height. And especially if I go in and I adjust the range here, so we go from step to, let's just go to, let's say, 1200. Like so, you can see here we have the high beeps, the low beeps, and there you have the indicators showing where new blocks start, and you have the 21 individual pieces of information in each block. So by doing it like this, it becomes very apparent, it becomes very easy to read to read this data off visually rather than having to do it by ear. But again, both methods are valid, and you can get the result in either way. And here you can also see where the end pulses, the pulses that indicate the end of each block or each segment, is wider than the other ones, indicating they are special, they're something else. This is something you can't really hear it because they're so short, they're played so rapidly. You might be able to hear it if you're playing it at 25% speed, but if you're doing it here, it becomes very clear, I think, that these notes are different. They are significantly higher and they're wider than anything else around you. So, and I guess, especially if you begin to scroll out, you will begin to see these happening at very, very regular intervals. And in case you're wondering what the price was, well, for everybody who finishes, they got the code HUNT2020 that they can use in my new merch store to get 10% off any purchase in there. And to the guy who finished it first, he got a gift card to the merch store. A lot of you guys asked about it on my one of my live streams. What was the price? What was it at the end? And while I didn't want to reveal it there, I also did say that if you're doing it just for the price, then don't do this because you think puzzles are fun. This was the easiest way for me to give something to everybody who finishes without it like completely ruining me, because I didn't know how many people would actually make it to the end. But for all of those who finished, they could then go over here and get a discount. By the time this video goes live, the HUNT 2020 code will be disabled, so you can't go and use that anymore. But I still hope you had fun with this little event. I love doing these puzzles. They take a lot of time to do. One thing is just generating all the puzzles, but just coming up with the different ciphers and having it not being solved within an hour is quite a challenge, and I like that. And it was also a good way to kind of do a sneaky announcement of the new merch store. But by the way, if you haven't checked out the store yet, I would really like if you go and check it out. As you can see, I have lots and lots of both new and also some of the older products from the old store has been moved over. I moved over to a new supplier, so everything should be a lot more smooth now. But of course, not only do we have the various t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, we also have the new bomber jackets. Bomber jacket, there comes in 2 colors, as well as a variety of mugs. There are now also caps and beanies, which is something you guys have been requesting. So go ahead, go over, check it out. Maybe there's something you like. But that's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.